What's up, guys? It's your boy Jee-man, and welcome to the Superhero Brothers podcast. Guys, on today's episode, we're going to be breaking down the massive announcements that James Gunn has brought for the DCU. And when I tell you, as a DC fan, I could not be more excited. Like, we have such a great slate coming. The DC universe is finally going to get some synergy. So super excited to talk about kind of the first three phases that he's breaking out, what my favorite upcoming show and movie are going to be, as well as some of the things I'm not as pumped about, but I want to be cautiously optimistic. But with that, fam, we're going to go ahead and dive right in. First and foremost, let's actually take a step back and give James Gunn a round of applause. It's like this, man. Talk about a true entrance for making the DC universe and introducing what this is going to be. He didn't do any type of 30-second or 1-minute clip, flashing some titles, maybe doing some comic book art. No, this guy took an entire 6 minutes to explain his thought process, how the DCU is going to work, and kind of what phases there were. Because I know a lot of us were concerned, like, hey, how are you going to reset the Snyderverse? Like, what characters are staying, what characters are going. So first and foremost, we do know this is going to be split up into 3 parts. So we have the reset. So that's including Shazam, Fury of the Gods, The Flash. That Flash film is going to kind of serve as the reset for the DC universe. Then we're going to go into Blue Beetle and end off the year of 2023 with Aquaman 2. So super, super excited for 2023. That's kind of just clearing up most, if not all, of the Snyderverse fans are going to be mad. But hey, this is sometimes just the way the world works. Like, got to build a bridge and get over it. But with that being said, then we go into phase 1 of the DCU, which is of Gods and Monsters. So phase 1 is kind of helping set up the DC universe in general. So we're starting off with a couple of shows. We got the Creature Commandos, which I would kind of say is DC's alien version of the Howling Commandos, led by Nick Fury and Marvel. Just kind of with this alien twist. You can kind of think of them like as crazy night creatures, if you will. They have like a Frankenstein, a different type of robot. So it might have a little bit of the Doom Patrol vibe with the Howling Commandos vibe. Super, super excited for that. We have Waller, which that means we're going to be bringing Viola Davis back, which I'm so thankful DC did. Now, granted, some people might have issues with continuity and, oh, I thought the universe was going to be reset. But hey, some actors just work for the roles and don't need to be recast. So super excited for her and very intrigued, as this is going to kind of be a post-Peacemaker series. It's taking most of the Peacemaker team, but just not having Peacemaker, which is, it's kind of a little weird. But I think it will really help Amanda Waller really develop more, and she'll just garner a lot more respect, and more people will understand why she is one of the main people to be feared in Cadmus, but also by villains and heroes alike. She has her own agenda, and nothing's going to stop her from getting what she wants. But guys, after that, I got a bias, but my favorite show is finally going to be coming to pass: Lanterns. So I expect these to be really our 2024 shows. So this is supposed to have kind of that true crime type of vibe, which I am so pumped for. We already know who the 2 Lanterns are going to be, which is going to be Hal Jordan and John Stewart. And so, guys, that means your boy G-Man still has a chance. So James Gunn, if you are listening to this, guys, I am so ready. I am so built. I'll go bald. I'll shave. I'll do whatever you need. Just let me sling the ring, man. Let me sling the ring. I got the oath down and everything. But no, and in all seriousness, actually, if you want to hire me, I'm so down. I'll happily make it real. But super excited for this, and finally getting to see a live action John Stewart and a live action Hal Jordan brought to the screen. I think there's a lot of potential good castings for that, whether it's Glenn Powell, whether actually somehow they end up bringing back Ryan Reynolds, whether they bring in Miles Teller, like, or even if they put Chris Pratt as Green Lantern, which, don't worry, I'll get back to my Chris Pratt revelation a little bit later, where you guys just basically need to call me the superhero predictor guru. But super, super excited for the show. But then after that, the true start of the DCU, this is going to be kind of James Gunn's baby. He's personally directing and writing this film, which is Superman Legacy. So mark this on your calendars. July 11th, 2025 is when the real DCU starts. young Superman. He's going to be in his early mid 20s, I think like 24, 25. And at first I wasn't pumped about this because I'm not gonna lie, I'm a huge Henry Cavill fan. But now when you think about it, James Gunn's doing a really thoughtful job because whoever this person is going to be can play Superman for the next 10, 20, 30 years. You can really see him grow. And so not only will we get to see young Superman and kind of his kind of early adult years, still kind of figuring out who he is. We can see the mid adults. We could get a Kingdom Come Superman. There's just so many arcs that this sets up. I'm super, super excited for this. Now we're going to have the Authority coming up after that. I'm not going to lie, guys, I haven't seen too much of this thing. From the little bit of research I did, it feels a little bit like DC's version of The Boys, just with its own little twist. So James Gunn says it's a passion project of his. So I know there's going to be a lot of time and depth and creativity put into it. So I'm excited to actually really learn about these characters from the Authority, because I don't have as much of a deep background as I do a lot of the other DC characters or Marvel characters. So super, super excited for that. And we're also going to get something called Paradise Lost. So this is going to take place on Themyscira, which is Wonder Woman's home island. James Gunn has said that this is going to have a Game of Thrones vibe and with like Westeros. So super excited to see kind of like what will the factions be of Themyscira, because we've never really truly kind of built that out. We've always had like, okay, Wonder Woman, head of the Amazons. You have her mother, Queen Hippolyta. But how did Queen Hippolyta come to be? What were the other factions that were fighting within each other before she was totally named queen? So super, super excited to see kind of how they take that universe and how they run with it. But after Paradise Lost, we will finally be introduced to the Batman of the DCU. So this will not be Robert Pattinson's Batman, but it will be another Batman. It will be introduced as Batman, the Brave and the Bold, with the Robin being Damian Wayne. Not gonna lie, we'll definitely get to my thoughts on that, as I don't necessarily agree with that being the first Robin, but I know James Gunn obviously has some master plan. But excited to see kind of how they take this Batman. Is he going to be like one of the more colorful, where it kind of emulates the animated series in terms of like that cartoon show, or is it more going to copy the DC animated universe? So super, super excited to see how they kind of build out Batman's world and how he ends up meeting Superman, of course, forming the Justice League. We all know that's one of our main questions, but also how these characters grow. Like, we know this Batman obviously is going to be a little bit older than his 20s, because if he had a kid, he's probably been Batman for, I don't know, like 5 to 10-ish years. So definitely still a younger Batman, but not so grizzled where he has this cynical view on the world, in a sense of where kind of we got Ben Affleck's Batman, which we like, but there was no real, like, how did he get there? Or in a sense, we're not in like year 1, year 2 with Robert Pattinson's Batman, which thoroughly enjoy, but I don't think in year 1 or year 2, Batman was anywhere near ready to have a sidekick, especially his son, Damian Wayne, who's raised by assassins. So we know we're going to get Talia al Ghul, maybe some callbacks to Rage. I don't know if they're going to bring back Liam Neeson. That'd actually be pretty awesome, but continuity wise, I want to work. So very intrigued to see who they bring back. So after Batman Brave and the Bold project, we're going to see Booster Gold kind of wrapping up 2024. And guys, I'm super, super excited for this show. I think Booster Gold is a lovable character, but also a little bit arrogant, a little bit goofy. So I feel like he's going to be able to pull in a variety of different audiences. And also he interacts with multiple iterations of the Blue Beetle. So maybe we'll get a Ted Kord callback, or the upcoming Blue Beetle, Jaime Reyes, could come in and play a factor and make an appearance on that show. So super excited to see how that's kind of weaved into the universe. This also kind of introduces time travel, as Booster Gold is a hero that comes from the future into the past, kind of trying to make his name for himself. I'd say 99.9% sure this is going to be Chris Pratt, or this actually could be Glenn Powell. Post that, we're going to have Supergirl, World of Tomorrow. So this is definitely a different character from Superman, but I do like how they're going to explore her story. So Supergirl, I'll give you a real quick synopsis, is basically she comes to Earth when she's like 16. Like, so you know how Clark's kind of grew up on Earth. He had no real view of what life was like on Krypton outside of kind of like those images. He never really lived it. Kara lived it. So now she's trying to kind of mold those memories to where she is now. So it'd be love to see how her and Clark interact. Will she end up going and joining like the Legion of Superheroes? There's so many crazy ways that this can go. Could she be kind of the connector to bring in Darkseid and the Furies? Like, there's just so many stories that could be done from this, and I'm super, super excited to see kind of where James Gunn takes her story and just like the overall direction of the DCU. So after Supergirl, kind of the last phase 1 project that we know of is Swamp Thing. And Swamp Thing, I'm kind of like up in the air about. I feel like, I mean, granted, he was made before Marvel's Man Thing and Werewolf by Night, but I feel like it's going to be hard to top that, and I don't want him to have like a silly version like in the Harley Quinn show. I want Swamp Thing to be a real serious character. I think he has such a great story, and it can be told, if it's told in the right way, it's going to be a huge hit, but if not, it's going to be a major bust. But with that, that's all of really what phase 1 is. Now, DC Elseworlds, this is where Robert Pattinson's Batman lives. We have the Joker with Joaquin Phoenix and Harley Quinn as Lady Gaga. This is kind of where that lives, as well as Superman and Lois with Tyler Hoechlin, that TV show, and Teen Titans Go. So I don't know about you guys, but personally, I love that James Gunn has totally split up kind of what's canon in terms of the reset of phase 1 versus what's not canon, which is those few shows and movies that I mentioned, which is DC Elseworld. So I just think it's phenomenal. As a fan, we know what's canon, what's not canon. We have a singular timeline and a chronological timeline where we can kind of put these projects in order and how we would watch them, whether you want to show them to your kids or kind of show it to older fans and just like let them see that universe grow. So I'm super, super stoked about it. So I know a lot of you are wondering, well, G-Man, I know there's a bunch of projects coming out for the DC universe. Which ones are you most excited about and which ones are you least excited about? So I'm going to have to say I'm really pumped, not only for Superman Legacy, but Batman, the Brave and the Bold, and Lanterns. I'd say those are probably like my top 3. One, because, you know, DC's Superman Legacy, that is the true start of the DCU, right? Like, and James Gunn has even said it himself. So think of like whoever is going to be this Superman is going to be as iconic as Robert Downey Jr. is for the character of Iron Man, and truly like the godfather of the DC universe, right? Batman, the Brave and the Bold. One, Batman's always been a great character and then favorite character of mine. Now, Grant, I don't know if I necessarily agree with the Damian Wayne casting in terms of not an actual actor who's been cast for it, but more so that that's the Robin that they want to go with. I'm a big Dick Grayson fan, so I would have loved to see him come in, then kind of grow, go out, be Nightwing, see Barbara come in, end up being Batgirl. I know she was never Robin, but just having her in there, as well as having Jason Todd come in, then him become the Red Hood. Then you also have Tim Drake, and then he becomes the Red Robin, and then Damian Wayne comes in. So that's kind of the order I would have liked to have seen. But in James Gunn we trust, and Gunn we trust, if you will. So super, super excited to see that. And then Lanterns, because you guys, that still gives me a shot. Your boy still has a chance to make it into the DCU as Green Lantern. Not only would that be a dream come true for me, but even if I don't end up getting the role, would love to see Jon Stewart brought to the live action screen as well. Dude, finally get the Green Lantern some love and like some respect, because every show that I've seen them in, these guys are getting mollywopped like all the time. You look at the recent DC animated universe, you look at even in Justice League Unlimited, like, my homie Jon Stewart was done so dirty. Like, we need to definitely get them some love. Like, even in, I don't know, what's that series called? Stargirl. That Green Lantern getting her butt kicked all the time. So I'm like, look, we need to put some respect on the Green Lantern's name. So super, super excited for this. And also how it's really a true crime type of vibe. So it's going to really rely on that cop aspect. And I think that's something that we really lose a lot when we think about the Green Lanterns. We just think about them as like police, but they've never done any true investigating. So would love to see that, and super excited to see that. Now, with all of these great projects, there are going to be some I am not as pumped as certain other ones. So for me, as much as I love Amanda Waller, I do not think she needs her own series. It's basically Peacemaker without Peacemaker, which I don't know. I liked Peacemaker overall as a show. I'd probably give it like a, I don't know, 6.5, 7 out of 10. But I just don't see the point of giving Amanda Waller her own show. Like, I get, like, yes, we're going to kind of, I guess, establish more that she is a boss and it should be feared by everyone, which, don't get me wrong, I like that, but at the same time, I'm like, is that necessary? With all of these other previous films, whether it's Suicide Squad, both iterations, you have the Peacemaker series, like, does she really need another one? Or even with the Black Adam film, I'm like, we know Amanda Waller, she can be a really big bad when she wants to be. So, like, I think that's kind of a waste. I know that James Gunn's Passion Project, I'm intrigued to see about the Authority, but like I said, I feel like this is just a copy of The Boys, and there's nothing wrong with The Boys. Actually, I super love The Boys, but I'm like, you got to stay original with your content. Like, stick to what you are. Don't try to kind of copy some other team or some other show. So that's kind of how I feel about it. I don't know how these characters, also, they're not technically a part of the DC universe, so don't really know how they're going to interact, or if there's going to be like real forced comedy between them. I'm not too sure about like the personality dynamics on that entire team. So that's more of a wait and see for me. I'm not as pumped about it, but that does not mean I don't think it's going to be a great show. So one thing I didn't really get was why James Gunn didn't reset the whole universe with the Flash film. I know he wanted to keep some characters, with Amanda Waller probably being one of the main ones, because it'd be hard to do a recast of her, if I'm being honest. But I do not think they should keep Ezra Miller. Personal opinion. Whether they do or not, obviously I don't have that choice, but I definitely do think that would not be a great decision for them. But with that being said, can we get a round of applause? Actually, I'm going to give a round of applause to myself, because your boy is the GOAT at predicting characters. Booster Gold, Chris Pratt, match made in heaven, and it's a TV show. It gives him kind of that flexibility to go into a movie based off of the reception it sees, or just keep it a classic HBO Max TV show. Super excited for that. So we already got one of the Guardians of the Galaxy characters nailed down. Now, I do know Dave Bautista had came out and said he had talked with James Gunn and he's not going to be Bane. However, how about you do a stretch character for him, and instead of doing like Hugo Strange or anything like that, have him be Lex Luthor. Not only does he now match Superman in physical stature, I'm not going to say in strength, obviously Superman's an alien and Kryptonian, gets power from the sun, but Lex Luthor is supposed to be in peak human physical condition. So definitely feel like Dave Bautista can embody that. He could have that menacing type of intellectual role. I think a lot of times he's played kind of menacing, but not super intellectual. So definitely would love to see him in this capacity and really have that stretch role for him. Now, something at first that I was not as pumped about was having the almost 2.5 years before we see 2/3 of the Trinity, essentially, like the Batman and Superman don't come out until 2025. And even with Paradise Island, we don't know if we're going to see Wonder Woman or this is going to be placed before Wonder Woman even comes to life. But I definitely appreciate James Gunn doing that, because now this means like, hey, I'm not just going to like push out these characters. I'm really trying to dive in and use the source material and make sure I'm casting the appropriate people, which also love the fact that James Gunn gave us insight into what comics he's getting his inspiration from. Not only does that highlight the comic book artists and helps kind of generate revenue in that area, because people obviously are going to want to read that to see, okay, like what are the little Easter eggs that he's taking or adaptation he's taking from those comic book lines, and how is he adding that to his story? I know I'm going to be reading them, so I'm super, super excited to kind of see where his head's at, how he might be thinking about these things. I'm actually finally have hope as a DC fan. So I used to say, I would, if there was like 4 people that had to hold my casket when I go and I pass away, I would want the DC execs to be some of my pallbearers, so they could let me down just one last time, because everything, we've always had so much hope, and then they've just found a way to ruin it. You garner so much hope, you ruin it. Even with Black Adam, like we had a lot of hype going into this film, and then you watch it and you're like, this is a Rock action movie. Like, no disrespect to The Rock, but I'm like, we've seen this movie like literally rerun 8 different times with you doing the same stupid smolder in a jungle And I was like, bro, we got to find something else. You got to expand the character. I digress in that retrospect. But at the end of the day, I'm super, super excited for the DCU. Guys, let me know in the comments what shows you guys are most excited for, or films are you excited for the most? What shows are you excited for the least as well? What castings do you think? Who's going to be Superman? Who's going to be Batman? Who's going to be the Green Lanterns? Like, oh, we have so many characters to cast and see kind of how the DCU grows. So super, super excited about that. But with all of that being said, we're going to go ahead and dive right into the Daily Bugle news and rumors. We're going to go ahead and switch it up since we had almost everything be about DC. We're going to go ahead and review some Marvel news. So first and foremost, we're getting a TV spot of The Marvels, which is the latest sequel to Miss Marvel. We should be getting that Super Bowl Sunday. So super excited to see what Marvels we're going to see. So we know we have Miss Marvel, Photon, and Captain Marvel. Could we get Blue Marvel? Could we get another Marvel? Super, super pumped to see kind of what the storyline is. And also, how does that feed into maybe Secret Invasion or essentially Phase 5? So very, very excited to see that. It's going to be pretty light on the Marvel docket today, and as well with DC. Also kind of light, we did get an announcement that Pennyworth, the origin of Batman's Butler, has been canceled. I was a little bit bummed. I actually got a chance to binge watch this series, and I thought it was really well done. And you could see kind of like how Alfred grew from the young man that he was to kind of like the sassy but like very resourceful Butler he becomes to be for the Wayne family, and how he even is introduced to the Waynes. I think they just did a really, really stellar job. But with that, fam, we're going to go ahead and wrap up today's episode. If you enjoyed today's podcast, please be sure to give us a 5-star rating. Not only does this ensure that we stay consistent with our content, but we're actually producing content that you guys enjoy. You can find us on all podcasting platforms. That means Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, anywhere there's a podcast. Superhero Brothers are keeping you in the know as well. Don't forget to follow us on all social media channels, including TikTok and Instagram. We will be having workouts and giveaways. Be sure to go ahead and give those a follow. That's at Superhero Brothers. That's SUPERBROTHAS, the Superhero Brothers. So with that, fam, it's your boy G-Man, and you have been listening to the Superhero Brothers podcast.